Hello, welcome. My name is Tracy. I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator here in Australia. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today I have a really great project. It is a fisherman's basket which is holding a card inside. Now I have made this for my dad's birthday and I'm really happy with how it turned out. So there's a lot of elements here that I want to show you, from the basket weave background to this little lure set and some little watercolour fish. And look at this gorgeous ribbon lure that's been made. Now I didn't come up with this idea. This has come from the Stampin' Success magazine that Stampin' Up send every quarter. It's packed full of ideas. This picture was inside, so I'm really happy to show you how I made this, and hopefully you can make one as well. So there is a magnetic closure on this basket, and when you open it up, I've also got this gorgeous little card inside. So this one here, I haven't put any writing inside yet, but I will do that very shortly. And I really like how this set turned out. So let's get started. This video will probably go for quite a while. There is a lot of steps, and I'm making not only the basket but also a card that will go inside the basket. So there's quite a few steps. I'm going to try and break it down and do a few things off camera just to quicken the video up slightly as well. So I have my basket kit here, but I just want to go through the supplies. So first off, for the basket, we have a 10" by 8" crumb cake piece of cardstock. Then, and I'm not sure of all the sizes, so make sure you just go over and check it out on my blog. We have soft suede for the handle, soft suede for the latch, and soft suede for the top of our basket. Now these soft suede pieces I've already run through the subtle embossing folder just to make it a little bit quicker as well, and the basket will actually go through the other embossing folder that we're using, which is the basket weave. So we've got the two embossing folders that we're using here today, subtle and also the basket weave. The stamp set that we're using is the Best Catch, and there is also a fun bundle with the framelits, and that's what we're using. We're also using the framelits with this basket. The inks, now there's quite a few inks with this set. Now of course we're making not only the basket, but we're also making a card to go inside. We have Crumb Cake, Melon Mumbo, Old Olive, Coral, Calypso Coral, Soft Suede, Pool Party and Mossy Meadows, so lots of colours there. I have some old twine. Now this is Mossy Meadow. I think it was in a holiday catalogue. It's just been sitting in my ribbon area, and I thought I will use this because this will go perfectly with the card and with the basket. I have some old buttons that I've had in my craft cupboard for a long time. They're just masculine buttons, you can get them anywhere. Also have two little magnets, and they're going to close my latch up on the basket. The other supplies I have here is Mossy Meadow 4x4 cardstock. Then I have a matting piece, which is also Mossy Meadow. Whisper white piece, and that's for the inside of the card. I have some shimmery white cardstock for the front layer and some crumb cake as well. Now also for both the box and the bag, I have some things that I've already pre-done. So I have some silver foil, and I have die cut already the basket, two of the flies and the smaller flies. Well, I think that's what they're called. So I've already die cut them out of the silver foil. I have a piece of watercolor paper where I have die cut the two fish dies. We're going to color them in later on. And another piece of the shimmery white, and I've die cut already that reed die from that as well. We're going to colour this one in, but we're also going to stamp and colour in a fish for the front of the card as well. Now I think that's all the equipment. The other equipment, I should just go on and tell you, I've used the corner rounder in the envelope punch board. If you have a corner rounder, you could just use that punch. And of course, to make the basket, we need our Stampin' trimmer. So I'm going to bring this one in first because that's how we're going to make that basket. And I don't think I actually said anything about this one. This is, I've just grabbed some Calypso Coral, some Daffodil Delight, and I have no idea what the third colour was. It was just, it's like a Flirty Flamingo maybe. I pulled the ribbon apart and that gave me these long strands. And I've just used some, oops, sorry, that was out of the area. I've just used some metallic thread to tie it at one end. And that just keeps it all together. So this is going to go on the front of our basket. Isn't that so cute? So I'm going to bring my trimmer in, and we're just working on that 10 by 8 inch piece of crumb cake cardstock. And what we're going to do is we're going to just be scoring. So get rid of your little cutting blade for now. On the 8-inch side, what I wanted to do is I want to score at 2 inches and then 6 inches. That's our first lots of scoring. And then while we're doing that, I want 1 1/4 inch on either side of this score line. So I'm going to pop that first 2-inch score at the 1 1/4 inch mark, and I'm just going to mark that edge of the cardstock. That's going to help me later on to do a diagonal cut. Oops. So just a little tiny notch there, and I'm also going to do 1 1/4 on this side. So let's line that up at 1 1/4. Make that little mark there, and that's all done. So we're going to turn it to the 10-inch side, and on the 10-inch side we're going to score at 4 inches and 6 inches. There we go. Now turning it back where our notches are, I'm going to cut from the notch that we've made down to that first score line, which is at the 4-inch mark. So let's line those two up in our trimmer, and I'm going to bring my blade in and just chop that off. So we're chopping off a rectangle there, and the same with the other side. So hopefully this is making sense as I'm doing it. And always rewind the video if you're making it at home. So there we go, we have those cut off there. Now what we're going to do is we're going to turn it back the other way, so we have the ones where we've notched out these bottom edges, and then we're going to score at 1 inch on either side here down to this second score line. So I'm going to line that up at the 1 inch mark, get rid of my cutting blade, and I'm just going to go mark this down until that second score line. So all the way down, that's good. And then we're going to mark this one. Now we know that this is 2 inches, so we're marking at 1 inch. So, and actually I'm going to bring my cutting blade in. I'm going to actually cut these off up to that first score line. So let's do that. Don't want to score it, I want to cut it. Let's bring this back into this other side. Sorry about that, everyone. Confused myself. Okay, so we've cut those 1 inch marks off. So next, we can actually bring our scissors in. I haven't got them out yet. And we're going to cut this piece that we've so we're going to cut these tabs off that we've just cut up to that score line, and we also want to cut all the way in to that second score line, so we're creating that mark there. Same for the other side, so cutting straight over to the second score line. Beautiful. Now these other two score lines here, we're going to cut up at those, but we're also going to notch in not only this tab, but also this tab here. So let's notch in, and that side as well. So we have notches on either side and just notch on this side. So let's turn it around the other way. We're going to do the exact same thing. So we're going to notch in this one, notch in that side and straight into the other side as well. So if you want to cut up that score line and then notch on this side, you can do it as well. I just find that's a little bit easier to follow. So that's all our cutting there. Let's bring the bone folder in and we're just going to score all those fold marks. So it's a quick and fairly easy box once you get your head around how it's made. So to fold in our box, this piece here, without the larger flaps, this is the front of our box. So the back of our box actually comes to the front. So we have our edges at our front of our box, which is fine. If you put the box together really well, you won't even really notice it. But the smaller of the box fronts is at the front. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in the basket weave embossing folder, and I'm going to quickly do that off camera. Now, just a little note for you. You're going to do this side first, and you want both the sides because we're seeing the sides and this bit, which is our back. So we'll pop that through the embossing folder first. This middle piece, which is our bottom of our box and our tabs for our box, we don't need to emboss that one at all. But then this part here, not the two sides, but just the front bit, that is going to be embossed as well. And you want to do this last because this is going to be the front showing bit of your box. So you want that to be perfect. So I'll be back in a minute. The box has all been embossed perfectly. So now we're going to just pop the whole thing together. So I'm going to bring in some tear and tape. And I want to run some tear and tape on these tabs. And I also want some tear and tape on the inside of these flaps. Because this edge here is right up at the front of your box or basket, you really want a layer of glue right along that edge on both sides. That's going to make sure that it all goes together and sits nice and flush and perfect. I'm just lining up to see where it's needed. I'm going to stick some on these tabs here as well. Hopefully I've got them all in the right spot. So let's just start taking some of our backings off. Now, I actually made this box for my dad for his birthday last month. And I gave it to him last month, so I don't even have my sample here to look at. So if I fumble a little bit, it's because of that reason. So I want to line this up with that edge along there, and the same for the other side. Okay. And now we're going to take all these backings off as well. So you could put a lot of things into this basket. And same for the other side. So the next part we're going to work on with the basket is both our lid, our handles and our latch. For the lid, this measures 3.5 by 3 7/8, and it's scored at 1 inch and 2.5 inches. So I'm just going to score that. Like I said before, this has been run through the subtle embossing folder, and I'm also going to bring in the Stampin' the envelope punch board, which is retired, and I'm just going to corner round the edges. I'm going to have to go out and buy a corner rounder because I do use the corner rounder on this a lot. Okay, so we have corner rounded the edges on every side. Then we have the latch, which measures 3.5 by 1 inch, and it's been scored at 1 inch. And I'm also going to run that through the corner rounder on each corner. And for a handle, the handle measures 9 inches by 3/4 inch. So let's put that one through. All the measurements can be found on my blog though, so for a more detailed directions. Okay, so handle's done, latch is done, and the top of our basket's done. I'm going to run some tear and tape down one of these sides. It doesn't matter because they both actually have been scored in at 1 inch on either side. There we go. Going to touch that straight down onto the back of our bag. I'm lining that score line up with the back of the basket there. Now, one thing I did in the other one that I haven't done here is I just sponged a little bit of the crumb cake on the edges, so I might just quickly do that now before I go any further. So I've grabbed out my crumb cake sponge, and I'm just going to sponge the very edges there just to dirty up the basket just slightly. Let's face it, if they take it fishing, it's not coming back nice and clean, is it? Okay, I think that's pretty good, isn't it? Now, a little story about myself. My dad has always done a lot of fishing, and as a kid we used to have to go fishing with him. Now, I used to get bored fishing. So what my dad used to do was, for my brother and I've got an older brother, he used to go and we'd get a chocolate milk and a packet of chips or a lolly or whatever it was to keep us quiet while my dad was fishing. Well, as soon as I finished my treat, I was ready to go home. So I know that used to probably annoy my whole family. I'll go anywhere for eats, but once the food's gone, I'm usually ready to go too. So that is our bag there. I'm going to attach my latch, and sorry, I had to think about that for a minute. So it's scored at the 1 inch mark. I'm going to just use the bone folder down, and that is going to be glued to the back of the latch. So let's stick some, I'm just going to use some Tombow glue. That should stick that down quite well. That's not right. That's not right. Not sure, but I think I'm just going to fold that down and attach that like that. I think my other one went down a little bit further. But I've scored it there now, so I'm going to actually glue that whole thing down. So this one's going to be a little bit different, I think, to the one I gave my dad. Okay. So I'm also going to glue my handle on. And I think for that I'm going to use the tear and tape just so it's got that little bit of extra adhesive. Now I never usually make the same thing twice exactly the same. It's just not how I do things, so I apologise if that annoys you a little. So I'm just going to attach that to the edge, and we're going to pop the buttons down with some glue dots. So quick and easy handle there. I'm going to bring my glue dots in. I'm going to stick a couple of the glue dots on the big one because that's going at the front of that latch. So just like that. And then the two other buttons are going to go on that handle piece. So there's no backing on the button. Like sometimes there's a little bit of a, where'd that go? There it is. Sometimes there's a little bit of a notch sort of thing on them. These ones are fairly flat on the back, so they work really well with this basket. Okay, so while I have the glue dots out, I'm going to bring in my magnets, and they are still together. So what I want to do is I want to place them down together. I'm going to stick it on the back where that button is. I'm also going to attach the other glue dot to that magnet. I'm going to try and pop that into the right position. So I'm going to pop that down. And that sits just perfectly there. Now with the other one, I did pop a piece of soft suede down on this one just so it would come off easier, but it works quite well there. Doesn't need one on there really. So there's the basket. Gonna move on and let's make all the embellishments for the basket. So I have the two little fish that I die cut with the watercolor paper. We're going to color them using the aqua brush, aqua painter, and we're going to use Mellow Mumbo and Mossy Meadow. There's not a lot of water in my aqua brush, and I've done that for a very good reason. So bringing those colours in, I just want to add a little bit of colour. On either edge. I'll add a little bit of extra depth of colour. So I don't want it to be all dark green, but I don't want it to be light as well. There we go. rid of that green. I'm going to bring in some pink. It's like a salmon sort of fish, isn't it? Same for both. So you could definitely go into a lot more detail in colouring if you know more about fish. And I think that looks really quite good. And I'm also going to bring in just a little bit of Calypso coral just to add a little bit of extra colour to that. So it just gives it like a rainbow fish look. So for our bag, we're just going to use all our embellishments now. So I have my pre-cut dies from that silver foil. I'm also going to bring in some of that twine. And this is really quite thick twine, so I'm going to just sort of take a couple of strands, and I want to feed that through the eye of the fish. So I'm going to glue some of these lures down off to the side, so we have a little bit of a detail going onto the basket. So I'm going to have one of the hooks off to the side. I'm also going to do another one down here, and this back piece is just the basket that comes in this die set. To attach that one there as well. So hanging these fish from here as well, we're going to attach it to the back. Have any leftover twine, just cut that off. My hands are really sticky. The last little embellishment that we're going to put on is our ribbon pieces, and I'm going to use a glue dot for that, just to stick that down. And the good thing about this ribbon, you can cut it down to any length that you want to cut it down to. So I'm going to do that now too. Okay. And that's our little embellishment area. Pop that straight down onto our basket. So I'm going to pop some, well, there's tear and tape behind there, I might just use it, and pop another one on top where it's missing some. And that's how the basket turns out. Very, very cute. Let's start working on the card. The card has a few elements as well. So we have a 4 by 8 inch card front. So I'm just gonna burnish that score mark that is our card base. We have the inside of our card that we're going to stamp. I have shimmery white that I've die cut the reed image from, which I'm going to colour that in with our aqua painter. And this is our front of our card here, so I don't know where to start. Let's start with this one. So this one's going to be a watercolour wash with the pool party, and then that'll give that time to dry as well. Bit of water in there. So on this one, which is shimmery white, okay. I think I want a little bit darker in some areas, so there we go, that's better. Okay. And while we have the aqua brush out, so let's pop that to the side. Let's bring that reed set in, and I'm going to use the soft suede ink for those top of the reeds. So there's 2 there. I'm also going to just put a little bit of dark brown on the top of those leaves. I'm going to bring in some old olive and colour in those reeds. You should probably wait until, that brown's dry. But this video is going to be long enough as it is, so we're going to push through. Okay, so we've got a little bit of green on there. I'm going to bring the Mossy Meadow colour in and just give a little bit of highlight green to the reeds, because nature's not all one colour, is it? It's nice and quick, simple, all done. I'm going to use the aqua brush again in a minute, so I'm going to pop out that piece. Putting this one to the side as well. I'm also going to bring in that shimmery white that we took the reeds out of, and I'm going to stamp in soft suede. I'm going to stamp that fish. Is it a salmon? That one here. I think it may be a salmon. And I'll bring that crumb cake back in. And I want to colour in, I still have a bit of green on there, I think. I'm going to colour in the bottom piece of him. You can definitely do a little bit more, take a little bit more time to your colouring in. Just blending that colour out a little. The next colour is the Calypso Coral. And I really should be waiting for the Early Espresso to dry a little bit, and the soft suede. Okay. going to bring in Old Olive next. Just need a bit more colour in that lid. So going to clean off Calypso Coral. And adding a little bit of green there as well. So your Early Espresso is going to run a little bit. It is a craft ink, sorry, a normal classic ink, so it will run, it won't stay true, but it still looks really good, doesn't it? So I'm going to let that dry and then I'll die cut it and we'll go on from there. So inside of our card, we're going to stamp the fish inside and also a sentiment. And I'm not colouring that fish in, I'm just leaving it as is. But there's a couple of sentiments in that stamp set. So there's "You're the best catch ever," "For you, Dad," and "It's your day." I'm stamping inside for the inside of our card, "It's your day." And what I like about this card, this could be used for a birthday as well as Father's Day. So that's the inside. I'm just going to bring in the crumb cake ink sponge and I'm just going to sponge along the edges. Okay. And I can glue that straight inside the card base. Pretty quick and simple inside. Now our watercolor pieces are still wet, so I'm going to do the sentiment for the outside of the card, and this is done in soft suede as well, and I'm using the "For you, Dad," but I'm just going to ink up the "For you," and the best way to do it is opposite way around so you can see what you're inking up. Perfect. That's good. And I'm actually just going to bring my scissors in and cut that down. And I want the end to be on an angle. Just like that. So everything is still drying again, so we're going to actually do our matting piece, and for this card we've used the soft suede technique. No, not the soft suede, the suede technique. And to do that we need a bone folder and a piece of cardstock. Now the good thing, Stampin' Up's cardstock is dyed all the way through the whole core. So this is perfect. The cheaper cardstock you won't be able to do this technique with because the inside will be white on the cheaper card. So what we're going to do is we're going to run the bone folder over our piece of card. I'm going to turn it around the other way. Now this is really great to use for looks like rhino skin or animal skin. You can see how that looks like animal skin, but we need to keep going for a little bit longer because we want the fibres to start coming apart from each other. So with this technique you're going to actually get two pieces of the suede technique card. You can see how that's sort of starting to pull away. Keep working on it. Make sure you keep turning it over as well. You need to do both sides. And Stampin' Up's cardstock is fantastic because I'll tell you, not all cardstocks will withstand this sort of rough treatment. Nearly there. You still need to be a little bit gentle, but our cardstock is really great quality. Okay. See how it's coming apart there? Let's see if it's gonna work away. No, need a little bit more. So we have this gorgeous suede technique here, and we're going to pop that straight down onto our card. And for this I'm actually going to use some tear and tape because it does lift and bubble a little bit. Now this is nice and dry, and I'm going to bring in just a pair of old scissors, and I want to rough the edges right up. So I'm just going to run the scissors over the edges to give it a nice roughed edge. So this is called distressing. I'm also going to age it a little bit as well, and run some of that sponge, the crumb cake sponge over it. See how it has that really nice distressed edges? The sponge, and I'm just going to bring in just a bit of colouring, makes it look old. What a mess. I'm going to just stick that one straight down as well, using some Tombow glue. Actually, before I put that down, I actually need to put a little bit of that twine around the back. Let's tie a knot on the side. Let's try that again. Now I will say I have not made a video in, I would say, nearly 2 months. I made sure that I was all ready to go to on stage and everything was scheduled and ready to go. So I really haven't made anything for 2 months, and I feel very, very rusty. Okay. We have the reeds that can be placed down now, and I'm just going to glue the bottom half of those reeds. Like that. I'm going to pop this one up with dimensionals. Giving this one a little bit of dimension as well. And stick that one up on dimensionals as well. Okay, so that's our card, and this is our basket. I just want to say thank you so much. If you're still with me now and watching this, I really appreciate it. This was a very long video and I made a lot of mistakes, so the next video I'm going to be shooting is going to be a very easy one because this one was a bit of a nightmare. Thanks so much for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed today's tutorial. If you have, please give me a thumbs up and don't forget to leave me a comment. Until next time, have a wonderful day and I'll see you all very soon. Bye bye.